Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this edition of Prime Time, a newscast in the English language on Canal de International. I'm called Morinzi at Top Stories. Three persons have been shot dead in a car this afternoon at the Bamenda 2 Council Junction in Bifimbi in a Mancon. The authorities of the act are still not clear, but accusing fingers are pointed at separatist fighters. Maurice Kamto, leader of CRM party, in the cap of a poet, his innermost feelings and soft sides, the content of a two poetic publication Wednesday in Yaoundé. And a network of students involved in the consumption of drugs and alcohol during school hours have been neutralized in Adamendong neighborhood in the nation's political capital Yaoundé. Those are major stories. Details right ahead. A mammoth crowd has this Thursday afternoon gathered at the regional hospital in Bamenda to witness the deposit of the corpses of three men shot dead at a popular junction at Bifimbi, Mancon quarters in Bamenda 2, a subdivision. On confirmed reports say the men were on board a car going to the Bamenda 2 council building to carry out estimates of a contract awarded them, probably against the warnings of separatist fighters said to have opposed any work with the council, especially as the council building had earlier been sealed by the fighters but presently occupied by the military for several months now. Among the three dead is a certain Aleng Anjoka, who is a popular bar owner, and Tariq will come back to that in as subsequent editions of newscasts. Newly installed senior divisional officer of Tian Division have been enjoined to shun indiscipline within the rank of the civil servants who have, since the start of the security crisis, become ghost workers, as many of them have abandoned office. We'll certainly come back to that in a very short moment. We'll take this other story. Maurice Kamto, leader of the CRM party, in the cap of a poet, his innocent feelings and soft side, the content of a two poetic publication on Wednesday in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. The two among the 5 books Maurice Kamto officially presented to Cameroonians. More in the following story.
The art of prolonging his political actions into poetic words, the new blend of CRM party scribe Maurice Kamto, the content of 2 publications titled in French, Territoire Insoumis and Accotement. In other words, rebellious authority and verge, very close shoulder. The soft, subtle side of Maurice Kamto.
I think it's probably the soft part of me, but it's one of the things I consider as deep in me. And I would like to share it with my fellow compatriots.
The way of touching society through words and pictures.
I'm concerned by individuals, by people, the life of people. This is kind of thing I write in my poetry. So it is very important for me to use poetry to express not only the beauty, the faith of the human being in the society and in the world at large.
Beyond poetry, also judicial, intellectual books, some new, one re-edited. They include the Treaty of the Constitutional Law and Political Institutions of Cameroon, Stars on the Ashes, a kind of primordial dawn, and the re-edited edition of The Urgency of Thought, Reflection on a Precondition for Development in Africa.
Il y a une urgence à penser la réalité de la société camerounaise dans laquelle on est.
And the poet, Maurice Kamto, through his poesy, tries to indicate paths that could lead us towards a dream horizon.
L'usage des figures de style,
use of a kind of freestyles, at times paradoxical, which carries one to explore unexpected feelings. So stirs the imaginations of his readers. The 5 publications were presented to Cameroonians Wednesday at La Librairie de Peuple Noir in Yaoundé. The content enough to entice the many who left with 5 to 1 collection, depending on their buying powers, to digest during quiet moments.
And we come back to this story. The newly installed senior divisional officer for Ndian in the southwest region of Cameroon has been told to shun indiscipline within the ranks of civil servants who have, since the start of the security crisis in that part of the country, become ghost workers, as many of them have abandoned office. The installation of the senior divisional officer for Ndian comes exactly 9 months after the abduction of 6 divisional delegates. More in the following story with Ines Ondwambala.
Goodbye, Baldena Gilbert. That command.
Gilbert Gibai Baldena is taking up duty as the new senior divisional officer of Ndian. At the time, the population of the division are still wondering of the whereabouts of the 6 divisional delegates kidnapped by unidentified gunmen some months back. Southwest Governor Bernard Okalia Bilai has given 30 days to the newly installed SDO of Ndian to restore the authority of the state in this part of the country.
His attention has been drawn on the fact that Ndian division is a very important division, potentially economically and strategically delicate. We are the gateway into our country by the sea and the exit. That gateway and that exit should not become a boulevard for criminals who are carrying weapons, who are carrying ammunition, drugs, and other many things to disturb our country.
As separatist fighters' threats continue in Ndian division, state agents posted in the area plus elected officials have deserted their office. Governor Bernard Okalia Bilai frowned on them and called on Gilbert Gibai Baldena to bring back order by sanctioning those who continue to jeopardize effort of the government in serving the population.
Invited the SDO and I gave him 30 days to bring back to their territory, to assume their responsibility. All the mayors and the assistant mayor, it is inadmissible that the mayors and the assistants who have been elected are residing out of their division. It is not the first time. This is, I think, the third time I'm coming here.
And a network of students involved in the consumption of drugs and alcohol have been neutralized at the Mendong neighborhoods in Yaoundé. The growing phenomenon, parents and inhabitants say, is becoming rampant. Meantime, school authorities have chosen to hold seal lips over the issue. As we hear the following story with Haisen Cha.
This is the building where a group of about 30 students, boys and girls of the government bilingual high school Mendong, were discovered in complete disorder and abnormality during school hours about a week ago. All in party mood, miniskirts and sexy outfits, uniforms in their bags, bottles of whiskey, packets of cigarettes, as well as heaps of Indian hymns, also spotted within the uncompleted structure. Alerted of the action, that fateful day, at about 10 a.m., elements of the Mendong National Gendarmerie Brigade stormed the vicinity, arresting about 10 of the delinquent students, some completely soaked into drugs and alcohol. The school authorities, immediately informed, rushed to identify the children, but in search of supplementary facts and possible disciplinary measures taken against the wayward children from the school principal. This Thursday, November 4th, the team of Canal reporters were declared persona non grata, welcomed in total hostility. And in her burst of anger, she insisted that she can only render account to her boss and not to the media nor the public. But contrary to what the social media had earlier portrayed on the situation, competent security authorities said the students were yet to engage into group sex on that particular day. Meantime, inhabitants continue to decry such a rising phenomenon in the neighborhood, stating that it is becoming so frequent, especially with the ongoing two-shift system. The reporters were equally hinted by some sources within the school milieu that the students concerned are being summoned by the disciplinary council.
November 4th.
And faced with the situation or with the growing phenomenon of drug consumption in schools, the government and civil society organization must join forces to redress the students to that fact. The battle of sensitization and social reinsertion of victims, civil society and non-governmental organizations say is yielding little fruits, but lots of challenges still very much present. Heinz Cha went finding out why the students are still very much resistant. His story.
It is regrettable that most youths nowadays have involved themselves into drug consumption, even within the school premises. The statistics quite alarming.
Aujourd'hui, les chiffres, les statistiques parlent de 60% de la consommation, 60% de consommateurs de drogue qui seraient des jeunes et 25% de la population camerounaise qui aurait déjà ne serait-ce que été en contact avec ces substances psychoactives-là.
Faced with the rising harmful act, which is plunging youth into all actions of immorality, social reintegration centers have embarked into sensitization activities across different schools in Yaoundé. Their fight since September have touched quite a reasonable number of students, both in schools and on social media.
2,000 students like that we have sensitized going in schools, and more than, let's say, 1 million through our social media. Facebook and Instagram.
The actors against the consumption of drugs in schools are equally of the opinion that discarding the students from schools rather lead them to more smoking and alcohol consumption avenues in town. The approach, they say, should instead be geared towards pulling them out of the act and socially reintegrating.
We can only feel comfortable with what we are doing if the final result is that those students are being reintegrated, are being socially reintegrated.
They also lament that some parents are not collaborative enough. They would rather prefer to hide their children, let them loose, knowing fully well that they are into drug consumption.
Douala City Council has introduced a digital parking to optimize on-the-street parking spaces and fight against haphazard stationing of vehicles. This is possible through the intelligent smart parking solution E3 Park, an application which drivers must need in order to use the digital parking spaces. Gladys Ambodiban completes that story.
The introduction of the smart parking solution is part of efforts by the Douala City Council to combat urban disorder and parking challenges in the economic city of Cameroon. Car owners will be able to use the smart parkings by simply downloading this app, through which they would book for the time they wish to park their vehicles.
Easy Park is a digital application which allowed motorists to park their cars freely on street. It's very different from private parking. It's very important to mention that. And the way it works is that you just have to download it for free from Google Play or App Store, depending on the type of phone that you are having. And then you top up your account, and anytime you want to park, it just debit the balance of the account. Well, what it does, it modernizes the cities, it reduces traffic jams, it increases revenue collection, and creates jobs. So the value added is really high. And on top of that is it allows that 10 minutes before the end of the parking, you can extend or leave, as opposed to, when it's manually, you have to come in the car, next to the car, go run to the... No. So it goes faster. It's really simplified the life of the users.
At a press briefing in Douala this November 3, 2021, officials of the Douala City Council and management of Easy Park said the application was conceived with considerations the realities of the African context, thus making payments more flexible.
You can use a third party to do the payment for your car. Let's imagine you have an old person who is not comfortable with smartphones, and so they can call the son to do the parking for you, or you can also use the box, the help desk, the call box. Anyone, a third party can do that for you.
A space at the smart parkings cost 100 CFA francs an hour. The administrative neighborhood of Bonanjo is serving as the pilot zone for the projects and would later extend to other quarters and subdivisions of.
The current crisis rocking the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon are leaving out Boko Haram attacks in the far north regions and COVID-19 pandemic has had a big blow on Cameroon's economy, contributing to its stagnating growth of 4.6%. The new National Development Strategy document for between 2020 and 2030 has been presented to stakeholders here in Cameroon's economic city Douala today. More in the following story.
Described as a green light to achieve the goals of Cameroon in the next 10 years, the National Development Strategy documents for 2020-2030 has been presented to stakeholders in Cameroon's economic city, Douala.
Our new strategy, that is our National Development Strategy 2020-2030. I hope that at the end of the day, all the stakeholders are happy. They have been able to learn something, and then they will share it with other people, other population in the various sectors.
Results of the previous strategic documents for growth and employment failed to speed up Cameroon's growth rates at 5.5%, reason why it stagnates at 4.6%. Economists blame the stagnating growth rate of Cameroon on the security situation in the far north region, northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, not leaving out COVID-19, which dealt a big blow on the economy.
Crisis really affect our economy. I think we lost something like 0.5% in terms of growth. And now we are spending a lot of money to ensure security in those areas.
Priority sectors have been clearly outlined.
It means we have to work in terms of road sector, education and health particularly.
Economists maintain the pillars of the new National Development Strategy are structural transformation of the economic development of human capital, promotion of employment and economic integration, and finally, governance and strategic management of state affairs.
Retired senior police superintendent has been given his last tribute this November 4 by military forces here in Cameroon's economic city Douala. It took place at the Beseke ceremonial. Ground condolences are presented to the family by the divisional commissioner representing the regional delegate for national security for the littoral region, More Wusale Sharifa.
The melancholic military gospel distilled by the police band is to bid au revoir to a fallen hero of the police corps, 90 years old retired senior police superintendent Dibancho Marc Desiré. The military honors to this retired super-skilled state functionary took place at the Beseke ceremonial ground in Douala, presided by representative of the regional delegate of national security, Albert Diwago. Difficult to hold back tears running down the cheeks of the family members. He did his job well, without fault, and with all his heart, because everywhere we have been, we have never been disappointed. I don't know if he had a failure somewhere. He was well known, and I am happy as today I come to fare him well to his last rest. My father was a straight man, sincere and earnest. He never failed in his duty. He worked in the police. He put all his soul, served his country as it should, and today I am proud of this tribute paid to him by the country. Born in 1940 in Bonaberi, Douala, Commissioner Dibancho's career began in 1949 in Kongsamba. He worked variously in Douala and Edea before being detached to Cameroon Diplomatic Services in Algeria in 1966. After 4 years with Cameroonian's diplomatic service in Algeria, he was called back to serve in Cameroon. Commissioner Dibancho Marc Desiré died on September 8, 2021 after a long illness.
and may he rest in perfect peace. And that brings us to the end of this edition of Newscast on Canal de International. Thanks so much for watching, but don't go away. We'll have news in the French language at exactly 7:50. This never senkan alenshis lenkanga. But coming up next is the brief with Lil Piaju. As for me, I'll be back tomorrow, same time. Good night.